All right, guys. Our next guest is a friend of the program, one of our favorite guests to have on. He's a former UFC heavyweight champion. He's a former Pancrase legend, a legend and an icon in the sport, and one of the most colorful personalities. He's none other than El Guapo, Bas Rutten. Bas, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you?
You're doing great. How you guys doing?
We're always good, Bas, and always a little bit better when you're on. Just to get straight into it, Bas, we spoke last time in December, and we discussed your O2 trainer. Now, recently, that's your device that you basically invented for anyone who doesn't know. Recently, you had an exchange with a man named David who was going through some health issues, and you posted the story on your website. But for anyone who didn't see that, can you tell the listeners what happened?
Yeah, he contacted me in September, and he said he had an incurable lung disease, and if an O2 trainer would help. I said, well, you can train anything, and since the lungs and the muscles around the lungs, those are the ones that really breathe for you. Well, you can train it. If you make them stronger, then your lungs, of course, will work. So I said, contact me. I'll send you a note to a trainer. The only thing I would like to have from you is, let me know how it goes. And out of the blue, I totally forgot about him. And 6 months later, I got an email, and he goes, man, his lung function, everything improved 50%.
Wow.
I mean, he went from like 4 to a 6. And I go, man, please see if you can get me some tests that you have, because he did those breathing tests. And he found an old one. He said, but they were all the same. And then he found a new one. So that was the comparison. And his doctor was amazed, that it helped so much. So it's a good thing for me to hear those things, because now I really realize it does a lot of good for a lot of people. I have also another friend, somebody, Ron Kroc from the Inside MMA. His wife has breathing troubles. And I sent her an O2 trainer last week. And I say, if you do what I say, with the breathing exercise, I guarantee you this is going to help you. So let's see where that story is going to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll stay on top of that one, Bas. And guys, the O2 trainer, if you're listening, it's a great device. Make sure you check it out. We'll give some information at the end of the interview how you can pick one up. Now, Bas, the other big thing is Paul Blart, Mall Cop. That movie is out. You've got a small part in the movie. Just wanted to get your experience of shooting it. Did you have any fun experiences making the movie? And how do you think the whole thing turned out?
I think it's everything he does, that Kevin does, playing that whole Blart's persona that he does, he cannot turn it off if he's in the movie, so it's hilarious. Outside also, it is always fun. I mean, meeting David Henry and his brother, like these, the kid stars from Disney, they're now in it as well, and they're all great guys, man. We had so much fun. It's everything, he also invites all his... he always finds parts for his old stand-up buddies.
Mm-hmm.
So once you put like 8 or 10 stand-up comedians together, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely check that out, guys. Now, Bas, one of your former opponents, Ken Shamrock, is back in the headlines. He's got his big fight with Kimbo in Bellator. It's funny because you've got Ken being your former opponent and Kimbo, a guy that you formerly trained. What did you think when you heard about this fight?
I thought it was great because, they were supposed to fight a while ago at the Elite XC, and that didn't happen. So, they always wanted to fight, and it would be a cool fight. I don't know, Kimbo, I hope he's okay with his knees, because he had some knee troubles at the time. When I was training him, he started slowly but surely, he got more and more. But God knows they fixed it. And then he can be going full on strong again. So, and for Ken, I don't know why Ken is still fighting. He loves it so much, he said. And I would love it also, but I mean, we're getting up there in age now, but it's something that he simply can't let go, and he doesn't care. He wants to do anything, like bare knuckle fighting.
Yeah.
The guy was just a born fighter. That's what he likes to do, and that's how he wants to stop. So all the power to him.
Oh, yeah, we had him on the show a few weeks back. He's like driving around in a motorhome, training out of that. The guy's just enjoying life as it is at the moment, so it's great to see. We had a few fans send in this question, Bas, so we thought we'd ask you. A lot of fans are wondering, how come you and Kimbo parted ways? Because you did train him there for a while. Was it just sort of an amicable parting?
It was. He got the injury here and there, and you know what? He's never been to used to a professional, if I say 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock with me. I'll probably be there 5 minutes before 10 or even sooner. I'll be never too late to a thing. And, he had injuries here, injuries there. So slowly but surely, showing up late here, showing up late there, and then I told him, I say, we can't do this like this. if you want to train with me, my time is so valuable. I already had to split myself with a good friend of mine, Randy Katami, and I told him, I said, man, if you can take him in the afternoon because he's a boxing coach, when you do the focus mitts, all the conditioning with him, then I'll do all the groundwork and the complete MMA with him. And so for me to schedule things at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's hard for me to schedule 2 classes a week. What I'm doing here at my gym, and that's at 6 o'clock p.m. So, if I suddenly add like 5 or 6 workouts, I really need to plan that. And that was kind of the thing, for me it was. And then he had that big fight, and at the end, so I said, and he had his injuries anyway. So why would we, I knew he couldn't do MMA anymore. He was going to focus more on boxing.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know about both guys, who do you think takes it, Kimbo or Ken?
That's a hard question for me, and a question that will tear me up a little bit, because the thing is this, Ken is, he's been fighting for such a long time, and on one side I say, I like Ken to win this fight. It will be really great for him. On the other side, I never had, with my new submission, improved submission skills, had the time anymore to fight with Ken.
Yeah.
So, but I did, of course, a lot of training with Kimbo, and since I'm always thought that I'm even better in fighting than when I'm in training, then on the other side thinks, for me, the dark side thinks, if Kimbo wins, then I kind of know that I would have beaten him, know. But you can never think like that either, a fight is always different for other people. Some people, styles make fights, we know this by now. Sometimes you got 2 guys who, they're like number 15 ranked on the planet, and so they have a brawl, and it becomes fight of the year. So styles definitely make matches. So, but it would be, in my mind, I would go like, okay, then I have a little bit of peace. It's still a black page in my history.
Yeah.
And that's with Ken, because, I wanted to fight him when he came to Pride, and then he said, no, we already did that twice, and we don't need to do it again. So, because I told the fight people I will come out of retirement for him, if you want. So, oh well, it's always good, and on the other side it's good, because Ken and I have always been going along very well.
Yeah, certainly. Now we've actually included a few fan questions in this interview because, Bas, as you know, you're a big fan favorite in the MMA community. Since we're on the subject of Ken, Roy would like to know, who do you think wins in their prime between Ken Shamrock and Frank Shamrock? Obviously, you fought them both. It's a tough question, but who do you think would win between those two?
Yeah, that's indeed a real question. I think if they would have waited a little bit closer together and both in their prime, I think that Frank started to understand sooner than anybody else that stamina was a very important thing also. And I think Frank, with his stamina and constantly pressing the fight, he could have pulled that one off. But they're both different weight classes. Frank is 185, Ken 220. I don't know what he is right now, but so they had to both meet at a way that it's for both guys good. But yeah, I would think at the end, both in their prime, Frank being the 5-time UFC champion, a lot of people don't realize that, then I would slight favor Frank maybe, yeah.
Frank, all right, Frank gets the edge. Now, while we're on the topic of some of these questions, this is another one. It's a guy that fairly well. We spoke about him. Last time when we spoke to you in December, you were predicting what happens between Nick Diaz and Anderson Silva. We've asked this pretty much all of our guests, something that no one expected, obviously, Anderson Silva to test for steroids afterwards. You just want to get your thoughts on that, and do you think that it hurts Anderson's legacy in any way, or do you think he's done enough in the sport for him for it not to hurt his legacy?
No, it will hurt his legacy. Listen, or he fights 3 more fights at least, and he makes sure that he gets tested every week. People come by, and that's what I would do as a fighter, to make sure that people know I'm absolutely clean, and then fight those 3 more fights, fight them well. That's also a thing that he needs to do, because otherwise people can say, you see, in the past, because this is the big conspiracy theory, right? And it's all over the internet. Not thinking, but you people automatically assume, they say, okay, but if he would have looked different this time, like he would have packed more muscle and everything, then everybody could have said, but he looked the same as he always looked. And that's what the people now are going to say. They say, wait a minute, yeah, but he looked exactly the same as he always looked, so maybe in the past, and then those questions come up, and it's a shame, because God knows he never did anything, but that's just how it goes, man. People always gravitate towards the negativity. And whenever something is negative, then they'll jump on that and they forget all the good that he did.
Mm.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, obviously a lot of people have sort of said it's the leg. He broke the leg and he needed it to recover. And a lot of fans and a lot of fighters that we've had on the show have said, look, I understand from the standpoint of him using it to make his leg better, but he should have taken some time off. Do you think that gives him any leeway there, Bas, in the whole situation?
Well, also, that was the other thing. He denied it. He denied it for 2 weeks. I was on the show. They said he was caught. I say he probably did that to recoup from his leg faster. I always said, with my stance on steroids, that I'm heavy against it. But I always say this. If the doctor tells you, listen, you're going to be out for a year, but if you take some steroids, you know, I can probably get you fighting again in half a year. Now, since it's your profession, I say do it. Take the steroids, do it. Just make sure it's out of your system. But with Anderson, he's denied it for like 2 weeks. Absolutely not. And then suddenly changed the story, and he said, yeah, but I was to recoup from my leg injury. So if he would have right away said that day, he said, yeah, I got it from the doctor because, you know, it would make me heal faster. You see, then that other story wouldn't have been out there that he was denying it and denying it.
Yeah. Another thing that we wanted to bring up, you know, Joe Rogan, around the time that Anderson Silva was, you know, popped for steroids, Joe Rogan was talking about Pride and, you know, the drug testing there, and he mentioned about Fedor. And one of the things he said is there's a high possibility that Fedor would have been on steroids. I think once Anderson popped, everyone sort of jumped on everybody else's records, looked at everybody who was successful, and thought, you know what, these guys all might be taking steroids. I'm just wondering what you thought about what Joe Rogan said in regards to Fedor.
Yeah, well, you can. In my book, you can never say that until somebody gets popped, and it's 100% certain. I would never touch that. It's just a still thing. I have guys who fought me and who said to people, oh, he's got to be on steroids because I was on steroids when I fought him and he was stronger than I am. You know, that's called genetics, dude. You know, and if you really want to piss me off, then you say, oh, yeah, you used as well, because these dumb knuckleheads, they go like, oh, yeah, the boss says he never used, everybody's using. It's not true. I'm not using. Throw me on a lie detector test. I'll pass any lie detector test 100% sure. In my whole career, and I always say this because right now for my neck, you know, and that is, well, my last fight was in 2006. This is 9 years ago. Now for my neck, yes, I'm taking TRT. I'm trying, you know, to respark everything because I lost a lot of muscle in my arms. You know, and now finally I start regaining a little tiny bit day by day. But during my whole fighting career, absolutely none. And I always say, if I can do it without, anybody can do it without. It's not just me. I'm nothing special, man. I'm a human being, same as anybody else.
Yeah, certainly right. And, you know, I guess the whole situation happened, Bas, because a lot of people have been taking knocks at Pride and Pride fighters, guys like Chal and other guys saying, oh, there was no drug testing and guys are just taking steroids. And with the whole, all the tests going positive, everybody's always questioning everything. Just wondering, you know, in Pride, were there some sort of drug testing? Because Fedor came out and said, hey, I was drug tested before fights.
Yeah.
Was there drug testing back in Pride?
Well, there's a fun clip, and I was talking about it last week because I did something funny. It was in Japan. They asked me, they wanted to do the Boss Tour. And the Boss Tour was me with a camera going backstage and then going to the dressing rooms with the fighters, interview them, and show the people at home, oh, this is where they warm up, this is where they do this is where they do that. And then I walked into the room from the doctors. And as soon as I walk into the room from the doctors, I look to the right and I see all these little tiny cups there. They're all the P tests are there, right? I know they've been testing. So right away, I turn around and I tell the camera crew, I say, give me 1 second. Let me talk to the people here, to the doctors, if it's okay for you guys to come in. So I close the door. Right away, I grab another cup. I see green tea. I put green tea in the cup, and I put that cup next to all the other P tests. And I put a lid on it because they all had a lid on it and a name, right? So then I open the door and I say, yeah, the doctor said it's okay, we can come in, and I show these people everything, and suddenly I say, oh my God, look at that, these are the P tests from tonight. I said, man, wouldn't it be great, you know, if you could taste what fighter is whose, you know? And these people, they look at me like, what is he going to do? So I take the cup then with the green tea, and I said, let's try it out. So I smell it, I say, it's got to be an American fighter. That's, you know, and then I took a drink, and when I swallow it, people start freaking out. I go, it's Mark Coleman. I think it's Mark Coleman. You know? It was so hilarious. But just because I did that, I know for a fact that they were testing because I saw like 20 or 30 cops standing there.
That is hilarious. Somewhere over there, Lyoto Machida was watching this and nodding in approval.
Yeah, but that was not the morning pee, boss.
Oh, of course. No, didn't count then. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, well, while we're on the topic of fun subjects, a fighter who's really building his legacy is Conor McGregor. I'm just wondering, did you get a chance to watch this crazy UFC 189 World Tour, the Embeddeds, and what are your thoughts on Conor McGregor and then the whole intense rivalry?
I love this guy, man. Listen, and everybody knows Jose Aldo has been my favorite fighter all the time, and I thought McGregor will have no chance against Jose a couple of fights ago, and now the way he's taken to people and his weird style and his stamina and his confidence, and I really start to think now, wow, this guy is really good. On top of the talk, he's not just a talker. This guy can actually fight, and he's believes in himself 100% also. And for a fighter, that is such a powerful thing to have, in your mind, if you can't lose, it's what he says. They're literally going to have to pretty much kill this guy in order to quit, because otherwise he won't quit. And trust me, Aldo knows this also. Now Aldo is very angry as well because I saw him walking around with his rosary, but the language that came out of his mouth was the opposite, I'm going to cut his head off, I'm going to do this, But, the fact that he takes the belt, the way he did that, puts his feet on the table, and then Aldo puts the feet on the table, and then right away used that momentum. It's like a setup. He was baiting him, and then he grabbed the belt, and the whole audience went nuts. I wish I would have been there, man. I think it's hilarious. I think that's going to be one of the biggest pay-per-views ever. I truly believe so. I think it's especially the first time that a lighter weight class is going to get... this could go over 1 million pay-per-view buys. I truly believe this.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge, huge event. I mean, there's 2 title fights on there, but we have to ask you, you said Jose is your favorite fighter. What's your prediction for the fight? Do you think he still beats Conor McGregor?
Yeah, I don't know about that anymore. The thing was this. Like, if we would have done 3 fights ago, I would say maybe Conor's going to get it now. And the sole reason for that is because Aldo is an extremely explosive fighter, and the only downside that he had was stamina in the past. But now, the last few fights, when he went 5 rounds, he's still strong in the 5th round. So he definitely worked on his stamina department, and is a very scary fighter. Also, you better believe there's a picture of Conor McGregor on his mirror every morning when he wakes up.
Yeah.
Like a Rocky-style thing, and he's going to crunch that picture, and he's going to train really hard. On the other side, there's a guy that really wants it, and he's got to now back up everything he said. The whole country is behind him. It's going to be a lot of pressure. Who can deal with the pressure the most? And to me, like McGregor seems to deal very good with pressure. Aldo, if he's too angry, he can overcommit to strikes. Maybe he's going to make a mistake in there. It's a close fight, man. It's going to be a very close fight. And on one side, I think it's going to be a knockout. On the other side, I think it probably will go 5 rounds. But I have no clue. This is like really split down the middle.
You're not alone. I think most people are like that as well with their prediction for this fight. Everyone just wants it to happen already so they can see what happens. Your fellow Pride veteran, Mirko Cro Cop, recently returned to the UFC and met Gabriel Gonzaga in Poland. He basically demolished Gonzaga's face. Beautiful elbows. What did you think about Cro Cop's return, and did it make you happy being a former Pride guy?
Yeah, no, I always been a huge Cro Cop fan. We had always had a fun connection. Like I was the only guy in Pride who was allowed to interview him. He didn't want anybody else to interview him. So we always had this thing, but he's a funny guy too. Like you saw the thing I did with Mauro Ranallo, with Cro Cop, where we we're making fun of it. So you can tell he's a really funny guy as well. And I really enjoyed him coming back and win a fight like this, especially after what happened to him the first time they met. This was a great victory for him.
Yeah, well, your 22 fight undefeated streak began with a heel hook, Bas. What did you think when you saw Cro Cop attempt a heel hook on Gonzaga?
It was the craziest thing ever, But then again, in Japan, he pulled off a straight armbar, I believe. In the 3 fights that he had in Japan. So he's one of those guys who was exactly the same as me, who said, "Okay, or I'm going to learn the ground game, or that's going to be my Achilles heel, and I'm going to lose on it." And although he had a really good takedown defense, he always had it in Pride as well. You never know, man. People say, "Oh, it's." When they say you don't need ground fighting because the street fight always starts on the street. And my answer is very simple. I say, what if you walk backwards and you trip over something, you're on your back? Now you suddenly wish that you could have been a ground fighter, right? So always prepare for the unexpected. It's always what they say. You can prepare yourself for 1,000 scenarios, but on the street, scenario 1,001 suddenly pops up. Oh, I didn't do that one yet.
Yeah.
And you better be ready for it. So he has to know it all. He knows it, and this is a good thing to see.
Now, we've always respected your analysis of fighters, Bas. Do you think Cro Cop can still be competitive amongst the elite in today's UFC heavyweight division?
Well, it's a hard one. I always kind of wondered why he didn't try to go to 205. That would be a great weight class for him. I know he's really cut, but I still think that because he was never a heavyweight, that would be a good thing for him because he will be even faster then. But on the other side, maybe he has to drain too much. He's going to be weaker. I don't know about that, but age. It's all about age. I'm telling you, if my knees wouldn't have been there and my neck, I don't know. I would have been the same as Ken, because my last fight, I got to tell you, man, I felt really good. I was in phenomenal shape. It was just that everything was hurting, But I mean, for the rest, I felt like $1,000,000. I felt like as I did at my last fight. So actually better,
Wow.
So I think if you keep the explosiveness, and I think he will keep that. And it doesn't slow down in the head, he should keep on fighting. But once you see things like, you see with some fighters, I don't want to mention names, you see some fighters that they suddenly don't see punches coming anymore. Mm-hmm. They stand in the ring, they get hit, and then you see them react to the hit. And then I say, you shouldn't fight anymore. And then they say, but I want one more fight. I go, and I always take them to the side and say, don't do this anymore, It's not you. You're going to get hurt, for the rest of your life. That's not going to be a good thing. You want to see your kids grow up, And but I don't think Cro Cop has that yet. I think maybe he's revamping himself now with the heel hook attempt and then the straight armbar victory and now another stoppage. So God knows. We'll see. We'll see in the future.
Yeah, certainly. And, it's interesting that you say that, Bas, because there's a few fighters in the UFC division that are sort of in that position where they've had a string of losses. They've been legends in their own right, but they still keep on fighting. Guys like Josh Koscheck and Gray Mannion. Obviously, Dana White, he's a big fan of the guys because they've done so much for the sport, so he lets them decide when it's time to go. But do you think with guys like that who have had a rough string of losses and are up there in age, there should be some kind of process to sort of, let them retire amicably and not keep sort of scrambling their brains?
They should. They really should step in. It's like what he did with Chuck Liddell. He said, well, I don't want him to fight anymore. It's just not good. And Chuck still, I actually saw him yesterday, in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
But we went out for an audition, both for the same audition. It was funny.
Oh, no, that's awkward.
He first looked at me, I said, Chuck, and you're like, hey, and then he go, oh, you, because I have a beard, I don't think you recognize me. And then I go, oh my God, and then we walked into the same casting agency.
Was there one of those things where you both try and fit through the door at the same time and it's really awkward?
No. You know what? I actually told him age before beauty. I literally said that to him and I let him go in front of me.
You should have told him, it's down that way, and told him to go down like the wrong hallway or something.
I should have done that. I even let him sign in before me. So that's what a gentleman I am. You know what? I'm a huge Chuck Liddell fan. Yeah. And I know for a fact that if I, and it's not because of me, any good coach, if I could have talked to him for like 3 months and training and 3 months talking, because his problem was only in his mind. His problem is that he likes to knock out people a lot, and if he dazes somebody, he goes in for the kill, and then sometimes he overcommitted because all the losses. Look at the last losses he had, is when he rocks somebody, and then he opens up, and then suddenly he gets hit. And I think if there's a coach who can really talk to him and they say, listen, step down, take a beat. You have a lot of time, man. If you rock somebody, normally that's an 8 count, so you got at least 20 seconds. And 20 seconds is a long time in the cage, in the ring. Just step back, relax, and then go back at it, Then you're going to knock the guy out. I still would have put him up against anybody, even Anderson Silva at the time,
Wow.
when Chuck retired. Because Chuck he's something, man. This guy can hit. He's got a great heart, and he's always there to fight, and that's why the people love him.
Yeah, no, that's a great point there, Bas, and absolutely. Well, that would have been amazing to see you work with Chuck. Now, one of the things that we love, obviously, it's a shame that you can't fight, but one of the things that we love about you is when you commentate, and you commentate regularly for the World Series of Fighting. We just want to get a couple of opinions from you on the great organization. Me and Cass have actually really enjoyed some of the shows and really tried to let the Australian fans know about the company down here because it's still quite young here down in Oz. Let's talk about, first off, Justin Gaethje. He's the champion. He's had some really exciting and dominant performances. And now people are saying they want to see him fight guys in the UFC. Do you think he's ready? And how do you think he would do against the top of the top in the UFC?
I think for for him right now, he's still early in his career, just pretty much demolished everybody who had him in front of him. I would do what he's doing right now. You know, guys that come from also from the UFC when he fought Guillard, you know, and you know, guys like that, and beat more of these guys, and then, you know, just get stronger and a little bit less overcommitting. And I'm not saying he cannot beat somebody from the UFC, because I truly believe he can. Because if you saw that last fight with Palomino, I mean, gee, what a bar he said, you know. Because now you know, like, okay, if I'm going to fight him, that's what I'm going to face. That's something powerful. a lot of heart, a lot of stamina, and a lot of power. Extremely lot of power. And that's the thing with him. But the only thing I would change with him is, like, don't overcommit too much. He has got so much natural power. He doesn't need to miss and hit like 3 feet next to the head, you know? You need to be a little bit more structured because a really good boxer, you know, is going to try to move angles on him and going to try to pick him apart. Sorry. Whoa. Then again, you know, with his fighting style, pushing the fight, that takes the striking away from pretty much any great boxer. You know, it's very hard while you get pushed backwards to still have the right foot setting to connect with punches. You know, to put your body weight in the punches. Can you hit him with a punch? Yeah, sure, yeah. But can you put your body weight in there? You can only do that if your 2 feet are planted on the ground. That's with hooks, and with straight punches, it's got to come from the back leg, the power. If you stand on your front leg, you can't put your body weight in there. You can knock him out, of course you can, but you cannot put your body weight in there. So I'm talking about those things, you know. And so his fighting style is a very hard style to fight. I think he would do very well. If I would give him advice, I would say stay in the World Series of Fighting, also for my pleasure, of course, but also because I want him, you know, to get a little bit more seasoned. And then go in there, then, you know, and then sky's the limit. But preferably, of course, I would like to have him there, because then I can commentate on him.
Yeah, of course. Very good advice, and hopefully Justin's listening to the show. You know, one person who disagrees, and you mentioned him before, is Melvin Guillard. You know, we had Melvin on the show about, 2 weeks ago, just before the fight he was supposed to have against Aussie at World Series of Fighting 20. Now, it seems like the wheels have fallen off a little bit for Melvin. I mean, he's working a part-time job at a strip club, and he obviously didn't submit his medicals. He's not obviously didn't fight at World Series of Fighting 20. You know, what do you think about this mess, and do you think he'll fight again in the company?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he needs to put his life in order. You know, once you, you know, listen. I love Melvin. He's a great guy, and I really do. But you know, if it was my company and he came overweight again, like he all did, I would have never let him fight again for the World Series of Fighting. But that's me, because he had too many warnings right now. I think it's super unprofessional not to be in weight. It's the worst thing. Now suddenly the title fight is gonna. Thankfully they were still fighting, but you know, what if the fight goes off? Well, what if it's off? You know, because he misses weight. He simply can't do that stuff. So he needs to get his life back on track. But you know, working at the strip club, I don't know if that's the greatest thing to do for him right now. That's because there's a lot of distractions there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's got to really watch out. You know, he's a super explosive guy. You know, he just needs a lot. A lot of wrestling, and go to just a soul ground game school. Go to Eddie Gracie Academy, AT&T, you know. You need to work a lot on the ground. Your killer see, like, if you lost so many fights by way of submission, once it goes to the ground, well, you got to change your game plan. Look at Cro Cop, what he's doing. And he's doing it at age 40, I believe.
Yes, certainly right. But Bas, it sounds like you need the O2 trainer right now.
No, you know what I was eating? I ate quinoa. You know, I eat a lot of that stuff nowadays. And one of these little tiny things is in my throat, and it messes me up. And people say, oh, drink water. It's not there. It's in the air pipe.
Quinoa, the silent killer.
That's why I go really loud. I try to cough that thing out, but that might have been it, I think.
Hey.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, Bas. So every time we have you on the show, obviously, as you know, you have so many fans around the world, and that includes Australia. So for me and Casper, it's almost like we've got a data analyst job, and we have to sift through all these fan questions because we can only fit a few in every time we have you on the program. So here are a few questions that we chose from the fans. The first one comes from El Dano. He goes, Bas, who do you think would win between Ronda Rousey and Cris Cyborg? And what are your thoughts about all this hype around Rousey being able to beat up a man Do you think it's possible?
No, not yeah. Of course, it's possible. It depends on who it is, you know. And but the man who's the champion in his weight in her weight class, the 135 now, I don't think she's good. But you know, once you start talking men and women, there's still a difference. On the street, listen, she cleans everybody up, and everybody out of the top 20. God knows she does it as well. But I'm just saying, pound for pound, you know, the same weight class, you know, and then you. And the champion as well. I don't think. A long time ago, Lucia Rijker had no more opponents. She was the Dutch phenom kickboxing and boxer, undefeated in boxing, undefeated in kickboxing. I mean, 80% or higher knockout rate. It's just nobody wanted to fight her. Even Leila Ali didn't want to fight her. Christy Martin at the time didn't want to fight her. You know, it's just a total animal. And she ran out of opponents, and she said, I want to fight a guy. And then she chose the Lumpini Stadium champion from Thailand, you know. Yeah, you know, she lost that one. You see, and of course, then you go like, yeah, but get a guy out of the top 10 first, you know. Let's warm up to this, you know. Why would you right away go to a champion? So, no, I think it would still be with the guy. But it's just because the differences. That's why guys, you know, look at track and field. You know, tell me one thing in track and field that the women do better. It's just because of the way they're built. I'm not saying this weaker, but it's just the way they're built. It's just the guys jump higher, farther, sprint faster. You know, that it's just genetics, and you know that transforms also in fighting, of course. So yeah, that would be my answer. And between Cyborg and Rousey, Cyborg I would have said a long time ago. Now, you know, with Ronda's getting better in the striking and looking good at that. You know, it's going to be a hard fight. She needs only one clinch. Because if she has the clinch, I think she can take Cyborg to the ground. And once it goes on the ground, well, we know that's going to be a problem for Cyborg. So Cyborg needs to do, if I were her, man, I would go to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado. And I would train there with all the Olympic wrestlers. That's the only thing I would do, non-stop. And do not clinch. Whatever you do not clinch with Rousey because her hip throws, arm throws, all these things are really, really good with her. You can't stop it. You know, even when Cyborg is really strong, I think Rousey is in that same strength level almost. She has that natural strength. You can see the way she's built. You can see her mind. She's in, you know, more people say that now. That like the female Mike Tyson, she has that whole mindset when she walks to the cage. You know, nobody can distract her. It's a tough cookie to beat, man. She's just very, very tough.
Yeah, I think the only person who's a worthy opponent is Michelle Rodriguez thus far. I'll see if we can get her in the UFC. The real Steve would like to know, Bas, what did you think about Brock Lesnar retiring from MMA officially and staying in the WWE? Was it the right decision?
Yes, it's the right decision. You shouldn't. No, he should not do MMA anymore because you could tell that he didn't enjoy to get a hit. You know. And I'm not saying that a fighter needs to enjoy it to getting hit, but at least they shouldn't be afraid of it. Once you start looking away from punches, that means that something you're doing wrong here, either in training not going all the way, you know, or they tell their sparring partners that they cannot hit the head. There is something that is then forbidden. You know, you cannot shy away from punches because that doesn't work in mixed martial arts. You have to fix that problem. And we didn't see him fix that over the time. So, then if the heart is not in it, man, if you don't fix it, it's like with me. You know, after I lost my last time, you know, I was so angry with myself. I could not believe that I still couldn't do the ground game. And then I just started doing it 2 or 3 times a day, every day. You know, and then suddenly it started clicking. You know, you work on your weaknesses. That's what you do. And I didn't see that with him. So he's a phenomenal athlete. Don't get me wrong. But, I think it's the right decision for him.
Next question comes from Kimura Kid. He goes, what were your thoughts on Mark Kerr during his Pride run and the making of the Smashing Machine? And he's also wondering, have you kept in touch with him, and how is he doing now?
You know, I talked to somebody who spoke to him last month, and he said he was not doing so well, and that hurts me because he's a really good guy, man. When you meet him, it's impossible not to like this guy. And but there's the example. Boys and girls, don't do painkillers. Don't do all those drugs. You know, and I'm just saying that because Mark Kerr is very open with it. Like in the Smashing Machine, you show him, he shows himself shooting up. So it's not like he says, Oh, please don't say it, because otherwise I wouldn't have said it, of course. But he brought it out in the open himself, so I can talk about that. And I think it's a good example. And I think that documentary is a good example for other fighters as well. You know, I don't know if you guys have those Vicodins in Australia, all those pills. Do you have that?
Oh,
No,
yeah. No?
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't even
don't
take
know. I'll
Panadol.
go on record and say I don't know.
I'm sure we do. We probably do, yeah.
Finally here in America, you know, they legalized marijuana. Now in a bunch of states. But, you know, so they're a little bit easier on that. Before they didn't want to do it because they don't want you to buy other drugs. They want you to buy their drugs. And their drugs are, well, painkillers. And the painkillers are here in such a way that if you take them for about 2-3 weeks straight, you know, you're going to have a problem getting off these things. You have to literally, you know, start winding down, which is something you can't do because, you know, as you know, your body learns how to deal with the substance. So 2 pills suddenly are not enough anymore. There need to be 3 pills. As soon 3 becomes 6, and it goes really fast. And then, boom, suddenly you're addicted. All the movie stars, name any movie star, even when they do heroin, it started with the pain pills. Because the painkillers, it's pretty much the same. You go from oxycodone to OxyContin. OxyContin is pharmaceutical heroin. It's exactly the same. If you shoot up or you take a pill, it doesn't matter. It's the same stuff. You know, and a lot of people, they cannot buy the OxyContin anymore because it's so expensive. You know, that's why there's all this crazy stuff going on here. So they go over to heroin because it's cheaper. You know, there was a way, I talked to Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben is very open about his addiction as well. And he was on our show and he was talking about this fact that with OxyContin, what people used to do, they crush them and then they can liquefy them and they can shoot them up just like they can do with heroin.
Yeah.
And what OxyContin did, they put something in the pill that you couldn't do it anymore. 85% of the sales went down when they did that.
Wow.
So now it's back in. You see what I mean? So that means 85% of the people who take OxyContin don't have a pain problem. They take it because recreational use or they're addicted.
Yeah.
So it's a very scary drug, you know. So I'm very happy here with the weed, at least. You know, you don't have these crazy things. You know, let the people smoke a little bit. You know, let them be happy, and you know they don't start robbing people and God knows what other crimes they do in order to get money to pay for their addiction.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously Mark was just a real specimen, a great athlete, and at one point looked like he was going to be sort of in the top for a really long time. Do you think if he didn't turn towards the pills and obviously had those issues with his wife or his girlfriend back in those days, do you think he could have been one of the all-time greats and possibly we'd be talking about him as one of the ex-champions and someone who was successful later on in his MMA career?
Yeah, I think so. I do not know that when I saw him fight for the first time, it was in the Vale-Tudo, Extreme Vale-Tudo, World Vale-Tudo Championships in Brazil. And I don't know if he was in the painkillers then. So I don't know if it was because once he stopped the painkillers, his career kind of went south. So it was almost that the painkillers put him in such a phase that he was able to fight. Now, if he never touched the pain pills, when for instance, that fight in Brazil, if he wasn't on painkillers there, then for sure he could have been a guy that we would still talk about as one of the greatest. You know, but I don't know. If he started his painkillers early and he was always fighting with painkillers, well, I know what happened when he stopped the painkillers because he couldn't mentally do it anymore. You know, these painkillers, they put you in such a phase that some people may, I don't know, they maybe fight better on them. I don't know. It blows me away because it takes all your reaction, your everything away, your speed, you know, your thinking. You start thinking so slow. It's crazy. I realized how bad it was. This is a crazy story, this, because I was training at the time. I was training Marco Huas and Mark Kerr, both at the same time. Both were fighting in Japan, and I went to Japan with them, and we were training, working out together before the fight, a couple of days before the fight. And no, I'm rolling with 2 freaking monsters, you know, like Marco and Mark Kerr. You know, they're much stronger than me and heavier, so I had to put a lot of power in there in what I do, and my tendonitis started acting up. And a tendonitis, once that happens with me, it's a very extremely painful thing, man. It's like that pretty much stopped my career. It's so much pain that you almost can't handle, and it comes from the inside. And I'm sitting there, and I go, guys, and I have tears coming out of my eyes. You know, I said, I got to go to the hospital. You guys keep training. I got to go to the hospital. I got to do something. Somebody got to give me something. I can't handle this anymore. And Mark Kerr says, no. He packed up all the stuff, and he says, let's go to the hotel. I got something for you. And I didn't care anymore. At that moment, I did not care about anything anymore. I just wanted the pain to be away. On the way to the hotel, I'm in freaking pain. You know, in my career, I couldn't eat anymore from the pain. So that's how much it
Wow.
was. And we come up to his room, and he pulls out a bottle and a syringe. And I look at him, and he looks at me. I go ahead. You know, I didn't care anymore. And then he grabbed my arm, and he shoots me up. He says, 5 seconds, I'll be away. And he shut me up. And yeah, 5 seconds, it was away. But I was gone for the whole night. I was slurring my speech. I was sweating profusely. I wanted to go to dinner with friends. I was sitting there, but I couldn't eat. And I looked at him and said, how can you fight on this, you know? How is that even possible? And he says, well, you get used to it, I guess, you know? But to me, it was like the worst thing. I could, you know, you cannot imagine to even step on a treadmill in that situation. So, but that gave him kind of away with me because I started sweating. And I always asked him, why are you sweating so much? So as soon as I started sweating, I remember I was all like looped up and I look at him and I said, now you gave yourself away. Now I know why you're sweating. So I want you to stop that stuff. You know, so, but from that moment on, everything went, he was already on his way down. It was a shame. It was a shame to see. I think also the relationship he's in, I think that, you know, you can't blame everybody. You know, everybody, it's their own fault. They choose to stay with somebody like that. You know, and I can't handle that. With me, if there's stress or people shouting at me, then you better stop, because once I start shouting, I'll bring it to a whole different level, you know. But I'm not that guy, you know. But once I go, I will be that guy. If you try to intimidate with yelling, people who would yell, to me, they're such a barking dogs. People who scream at me, I just walk away. I said, yeah, I can, you know, learn to talk.
Yeah.
You know? But he was in that relationship and was fighting. She pulled a gun on him a couple of times. I mean, wow. Who wants to be in a relationship like that? But for some reason, he loved her. And I truly believe that has a lot to do also with the drugs. And like I said, I don't blame, because he takes the drugs and he does that. He does everything himself. I cannot blame anybody else. But I mean, some people, you know, they start turning to think to ease it a little bit. Oh, let's take a few Vicodins. You know, I'm a little bit more prepared to all the shouting and all the stress in the house. You know, so I don't know. But drugs, man, stay away from it far. I always tell this to fighters. When the amateur fighters, sometimes they ask me to go there and to talk to them. And before they turn pro, and I say, well, if you're already new steroids, you might as well stop now. That is because you're already a loser, you know, so you're not going to make it because you're already insecure. That's why you're taking it. So you might as well stop now. And painkillers. I always say, stay away from that. That is the worst stuff that they have here in America, because it will hook you, you know. And once you start taking it more than 2 or 3 weeks, like I said, there's only one way you're going, and it's down. It will never go up. You never see anybody flourish anymore. It's going down. It's gone.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up, Bas, because obviously one of the greatest fighters in the world today, Jon Jones, is caught using cocaine. You know, what did you think of that? Because obviously it's a recreational drug. It's not like heroin or Oxycontin or anything that Mark was taking. But at the same time, you know, fighting and being pound for pound the champion just doesn't seem constructive to his career.
Yeah, you know, we all did crazy stuff, right? I mean, when you should have seen me drinking, I was out of control too. And, you know, so, but, you know, after that, it would be 2 or 3 days only. After a fight, after like an 8-week training camp, and I will be a full training again. So with Jon Jones, I don't see that problem. I truly believe, like you said, it's a recreational drug, you know, but it's just not a good thing. Like, he's such an example right now for a lot of kids also. And I don't think, you know, that he realizes how big of an influence he can be for younger kids and to, you know, to be an athlete and to, you know, show the right way. If you want to do that stuff, man, Jesus, I do it once after your fight and make sure you stay home. All these things, you know, why would and weed out the people around you, you know, the people who gave it to you, who introduced you to the cocaine. Get these people out, man. They're bad people. If it's somebody close to you, that is not your friend. You know, if one of my friends would do that to me at my peak of my career, I would say, man, get away from me. But everybody wants to be with Jon, you know, but it's logic. Everybody wants to be with the champ. It's not everybody wants to be with Jon. Everybody wants to be with the champion. You know, that's why I did a lot of times. So you just sort of with Mike Tyson, and you see it with a lot of guys. They have only leeches around them. Only people who suck them dry from money and for drugs and for everything. Because if they do it, you know, then, whoa, wait, it's free snoring for us, guys. That's
Yeah.
probably how they think. Yeah, they're weasels. So he really has to sit back and he say, okay, this is the guy who introduced to me. You leave, please. And then all the other guys also who were, weed them out, get rid of them.
Sound advice. Bas, we really, really appreciate the time you're giving us. We're going to do one more thing with you. It's called the Submission Rated Tap Out Round. Bunch of fun questions, and you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind, like word association. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we heard at one point when you were focusing on your grappling, Bas, you went as far as waking up your wife in the middle of the night to try and move. Is this true? And what was the maddest your wife got?
Yes, and this happened at least 6 or 7 times. Yeah, and during the day also, when she walked around, say, lean over, let her put a choke on her. Yeah, my poor wife. No, she's the best.
Wow, she's the greatest, man. Now, we've got a fan question here from M25105. He goes, what spices does Bas prefer when he seasons his meat and steaks? And also, what's a good beef stew that you can recommend for this guy?
A good beef what?
Stew.
Good beef stew, yeah.
I always say the beef stew is just about all the vegetables that you like, you put in. And even they say, you can't put zucchini in there, put zucchini in there. I do it, because I like zucchini. Take anything you like and just put it in there. The herb, I give you the biggest secret now, guys. This is like the biggest secret on the planet. It's called aromat.
Aromat.
It's Aromat. And it comes from Germany. It's a little yellow bottle, and you have it here at... the World Market. That's here in America. I don't know if you guys have that. It's a little spice, and that stuff makes everything really, really good. And then of course you can do cilantro, you can all that other stuff that you really like. But that stuff you can put on an egg, you can put on anything. It'll make everything better. It's really great.
That's hilarious. It's like the TRT of cooking, this aromat. Cilantro is like protein and creatine, and then you got aromat, and that's like the TRT. Awesome.
Yeah.
King wants to know, who was your toughest opponent during your active career, Bas?
I have to say Funaki, because I literally punched myself almost out on him, and every time he got back up, I knocked him down, he got back up, he got him down, and I think the 5th time they stopped it because there was a maximum allowance of 5 times in a half an hour fight in Pancras. So, but it was hard because I kneed him in the face. My knees were literally, I had bruises on my knees and my palms. Both. I mean, they made pictures of it that that was insane how hard I hit him with my palms behind his ear also. And then when he would go down, and then the whole audience went, Funaki. And then he got back up and he started cheering towards the audience. And I'm literally going like, dude, this guy's still standing. And then the last one, I grabbed him by the hair. I remember that. I really grabbed his hair really tight. And then I kneed him as hard as I could in his face. And that was the one that made it stop.
Now, Bas, your roots are fight T-shirts. They're hot commodities, and we now see WWE wrestlers such as Natalya or The Undertaker wearing them around. What do you think when you see the T-shirts being worn on the episodes of Total Divas on E! It looks like you have a bit of a cameo with your T-shirts.
Yeah, how cool is that? Because a lot of people are going to go, of course, who don't know anything about MMA. They're going to go, who is that? Bas Rutten. No, that was so cool to hear. And also Chuck. I saw Chuck Liddell walking in one. They made a picture of from TMZ, and it's really cool, man. That it never stops. Those things never stop. That you can, that it surprises you every time when something happens, or you go somewhere. You go to a new doctor, and then a knee doctor, and the whole time I'm talking to him, and at the end he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm a huge fan. Been following you since '93." You go like, "Wow, this is." How old are you, man? Because he's younger than I am, but then they suddenly know everything, and it's always, it takes you. It's a really cool thing.
That's awesome. Bas, I think one of the last questions, possibly second last, it's a 2-in-1. What's your official prediction, Mayweather or Pacquiao? And just going to follow that up with Conor McGregor saying this week that if you put me face-to-face with Floyd Mayweather, pound-for-pound boxing is best. If I fought Floyd, I would kill him in less than 30 seconds. It would take me less than 30 seconds to wrap around him like a boa constrictor and strangle him. So what's your prediction for Mayweather and Pacquiao, and what do you think of this comment?
I think Mayweather is in a lot of trouble with my answers because I think Pacquiao's going to knock him out. I hope so. And Conor too. I don't know if he can do it in 30 seconds because Mayweather's great footwork. He's got to lock him up. But and if it's in a ring, that makes it actually easier for Conor because then he's a corner. He can drive him into a corner and then see if he can take him down. Yeah, but Conor should not box with him. That's the one thing. They always ask me with the Tyson. who would win? I said, come on, dude, I'm going to get knocked out. It's like against Mike Tyson. Let's be real here. But I would fight him MMA. Then, I would do that. At the time, I was almost actually fighting Holyfield at one time.
Wow.
Evander Holyfield, yeah, kickboxing match. But then they called me and they suddenly said, no more knees, and then they called me like a week later again, no more low kicks. They start taking all the weapons away. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he chose to get back into boxing. So, but that was pretty close to happening.
Wow, that would have been amazing. Now, last question, Bas, because we don't want to hog you all to ourselves. Give us the update. How's the neck feeling? Is the arm doing any better? Last time we spoke to you was right after your last surgery. Give us an update.
It starts now. It's starting now. What happens is if a nerve is damaged, they right away when they open the nerves, they get a 100% reaction. So they say, okay, it's 100%, it's open now, but it's still damaged. So now a nerve gets better like a millimeter a day, which is about an inch a month, they say. And I can literally see that now. I can see my shoulder starts developing a little bit again, and my biceps very slowly, but my biceps on the top start developing more than the below. Below it is still really thin. But it's just because the nerve has to go down, it has to, it has to heal again. And so it can function and give signals to the muscles again. But last time what I did 20 pounds 7 times. Now, I started with 5 pounds, doing that 5 times. So, and that was after a surgery. So it's getting up there, but it's hard. I did my first 5 pull-ups in 4 years last week. I couldn't pull up and of course my left arm will do a lot of that. But still, I was not able to do it, and now I can, and I can carry things. I can feel better. I can snap my fingers again. I couldn't do that for 4 years either.
Wow.
So all these things slowly but surely say, hey, wait a minute, I can do this again, and I can do this now, and so it's coming back. It's coming back. It's just a long ride. I think it takes at least 1 more year, and then hopefully my muscles are a little filled in, because right now I have a little sticky arms. If you look at it, there's a dent in there. The whole muscle is atrophied.
Wow. Well, yeah, look, hopefully that all works out, Bas. Hopefully in the next year or so, you'll be back to your usual self. You have the 22-inch pythons coming back. And guys, don't forget to follow Bas on Twitter at Bas Rutten MMA, and check out the O2 Trainer now at www.o2trainer.com. It's pretty much like a miracle worker. I'm actually going back to the gym. There's a very good chance I'm going to order one myself. Bas, as always, we really, 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 really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, very welcome, guys. I'm always having a blast with you guys. So happy to do it.